The Whiskey Throttle Show, now available on the Spot Network, an independent, standalone streaming platform, live now on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Google Play, Android TV, most smart TVs, and all phones and tablets. Look for future live shows and specials only available on Spot Network. Download the app today on your favorite device.
What's the sketchiest stunt you've done? Jim said I had to ask you about one where you rode a bike that was hooked up to a thing and you had to go out over some canyon. And he said it was really sketchy.
It's sketchy. It's really sketchy, and I'm afraid of heights. And it was probably the first real stunt that I'd done, right? Because it was on Dudley Do-Right. So what it was Dudley, to get away from the bad guys, he's taken off on this 250, CR250, and he jumps this canyon that this river is running through, and he jumps the canyon and barely cases it on the other side, right? So they built this rig where we had the cable was super thick cable running from a crane way out in the middle of this rock quarry, and I was about 80 feet up on this mesa. So the mesa kind of goes off, drops off into this rock quarry, and there's a crane. I don't know how far out, far enough out, and the cable runs all the way back behind me. So I'm on the 250, and it's cabled front and rear with a traveling system onto that cable. So and I had camera on the bike as well to get the POV. So I had to ride this bike basically, safetied to this cable off of this 80-foot cliff. So you're basically just shifting gears, doing a start to go off this 80-foot cliff, and then when you leave it, now you're on the traveler going across that line, 80 feet of rocks and stuff under you, and later they CG'd in the river. But that was sketchy, right? Like you're just riding a motorcycle off of an 80-foot cliff.
Yeah, something fails, you're dead.
You're dead. Yeah. Anything fails and you're dead.
And you were tethered to that cable as well, I would assume, right? In case you fell off the bike?
I was tethered to
the bike.
So
if the bike goes, you're not getting away.
Yeah. So that was sketchy, especially being the first thing. And I hate heights. Yeah. So, which is a great thing to be when you're a stuntman.
Yeah.
So, that was sketchy. And then what we did was the reverse of that, because there was no other place to land, was then we flipped the bike around and tow myself backwards. So we flipped the whole world around, right? So where I took off is where I was also going to land, and they just changed it digitally. So they backed me all the way up to the crane. So now I'm just hanging on a motorcycle, 100 feet up, because I have to be traveling down. So I'm 100 feet in the air on a 250 over a rock quarry, and I have to reach back. I have to start the camera, which was overhead at this point. So I had to turn the camera on, then pull a quick release, and then I start rolling. And we had to set it up to where when it rolls all the way into I end up casing it. So then I'm a little bit front end high, and then I case into the other side and don't barely make it, and I'm hanging off the edge of the cliff. And so, yeah.
Sketch. Was that the sketchiest thing you've ever done, probably?
It was probably the sketchiest thing I've ever done because of it was so early. It was the first thing I'd ever done.
Yeah.
So it was sketchy from that perspective. And you'd be surprised how often you get asked that question and how blank your mind can go when you get asked that question. Like, what's the sketchiest thing you've ever done? You're kind of like, I don't know. Like,
well, it's backwards because we're so used to moto.
Yeah.
When we do our actual moto stuff, people on set are just like, man, you guys are crazy.
You just jump something standard. They're like, that was wild.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it was nothing.
But then when you do something that is like, okay, we're going to harness you in. Jed over there's got the button.
Yeah.
When he pushes it, you're going to go flying. You're like, you good?
Yeah.
When you get out, it's sketchy for me when I'm not in control.
Yeah. I do know that for me, the most frightened I've ever been was on, don't know the name of the movie, but it was a wartime movie, and we're in a submarine, and the submarine gets torpedoed. So I'm on a bunk bed, right? Sitting on a bunk bed. I'm a military guy.
Oh, it's the Nolan movie.
The Chris Nolan movie. And the wall is scored, and behind the wall is a trough that goes up to a water tank that was like a 10,000 gallon water tank that they dump the water into this trough, and it comes down, goes through the trough, and comes through the wall and hits me in the back. Fills the room up with water. There's stuntmen everywhere. There's like 50 people in the room, and it's on a stage at Universal that's down in a tank that's submerged. that was the most afraid. And I'm ratcheted. So not only does the water hit me, but I'm on a ratchet system, which yanks me off of the bed. The beds break. Everyone ends up on the ground underwater. And that was probably the most, yeah.
And then what, they dump the water somehow
So 3,
quickly?
2, 1, action. They literally turn the thing over and it pours down. And I'm like,
Yeah, but then what happened? You guys are all underwater. Then what?
well,
What's
that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was I was like, have we tested this? Do we know what the weight of that water is? Do we know what it's coming out of this wall at? Like, what's the velocity? Like, is it going to break my back? I have no idea. I've literally no idea how the system works, how any of it works. I'm on a ratchet. I'm looking at a row of people that are going to be my catchers, basically. They're at a lunch table. I'm going to go into them. We're going to all go down, and we're going to all be tangled up, and the room's going to fill up with water. And then it drains after like 7 seconds or something. It drains pretty fast. But I cannot tell you, like, once you get hit and you're tied up underwater, how long that second.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have no air. The air's knocked out of me. So, and then you're tangled up, and people are bleeding, and there's screws in people's heads. And that's the sketchiest thing, because it's just water and the unknown. You know, most things you kind of have an idea of nobody had an idea. They really didn't. I don't know. I'm like, well, do you know how fast the water's going to hit me? Like, am I going to be paralyzed instantly? Like,
man. Yeah, that's like getting tossed on a big wave, and you're like, all right, just count to 10.
Yeah.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 10. Ah, you know.
Yeah.
It's scary when you're underwater and you can't control it.
Yeah, we did that. I remember we did that 4 times, and it was gnarly. It was the gnarliest thing every time. It got scarier because you're like, oh God,
I know what's coming.
Can't do this again. After every take, someone went to the hospital.
Really? Yeah, I would imagine like you could go into a table and broken bones and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
What about you?
Like I said, anytime I'm not in control of a stunt or you're,
Yeah, I'm not a good passenger either. Like,
that's horrible. David Barrett, like years later, came to, this is a good one. It was, another spur of the moment thing. He came after I moved to Louisiana, he came and directed a movie there, and it was a white supremacist movie. And so, they're the bad guys, and this cop comes in and has a shootout and a fire thing with a bunch of them. And so I'm, got a shaved head, and I'm supposed to... there's a car that pulls in. I'm probably like 14 feet up, and then there's a guardrail missing, and I'm supposed to be at the end of the guardrail, get hit, and then just do a fall and come down on top of the car. And that was all that was scripted. And even doing that, I was like, man, okay, I'll do my best, And David, bless his heart, I show up to work, and he goes, hey, I talked to the effects team and the fire guy, and we're going to light you up. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, it's going to be great. Have you ever done a fire burn? I'm all, no. And he's like, well, tonight's going to be your night. So I waited all night, and then it's like 5 a.m, and you got to put I've been being told how it's going to happen and what to do. And, so now all of a sudden I had a great fire guy there. And he got me all gelled up, and you put all these, Nomex on, and it's just freezing. It's been in an ice tank.
The worst part about being lit on fire, you're not going to get it, is how cold you are.
Cold you are.
You're freezing before you do it. You're begging them to light you on fire.
Do they wet the Nomex?
It's wet and gel, and it's been in ice with water
Yeah.
all, just.
And it's usually 5 a.m, and it's cold out.
Yeah, so the sun's coming up, you're just tired, and so I put all this on, and then you put your wardrobe on underneath it, and you just you just feel like a Jell-O donut, basically.
Really?
Yeah, and it's just, and then they come out with regular fuel. They're just putting it all over you, and I'm just like, okay, and then so...
What did they tell you about breathing, though?
So,
you don't want to breathe, right?
Yeah, so then they give you a straw, and they put all the stuff around on your ears, on the pieces that are exposed. It's just gel. And then it's just chaotic, because the whole night you're being told by my fire guy that, like how easy it is, and you're going to do the same thing that you always did. It's my job, just not... But then you're there, they're setting up the lights, it's small, it's tiny, everybody's talking, you're just trying to pay attention, and... all I'm thinking about is like, God, this fire. It's like, really? I took this job to do a fall. Now I'm catching on fire. So, and it just gets real. They're putting the, real fuel on you, and they're like, hey, we're going to put real gas. And so they're like, hey, so here's the cadence. We're going to call 3, 2, 1 action. On action, we're actually going to light you up. But he's like, I'm going to hold you. You stay here until the fire gets big, and then we'll yell, go. So I'm like, okay, and then then they're like, okay, here we go, buddy, and they're just all like getting, and you're like, oh man, I was literally, like I said, anxiety problems. I'm like, don't freak out, don't freak out, don't freak out, not right now, not right now. So I'm sitting there and I have all the gel on, and they do your eyelids and everything, and they give you the straw, and then they're like, action, and you're just kind of like, okay, am I on fire or not? And then it's probably 12 seconds, but your mind's playing tricks on you. Like, did they say? And I'm just sitting here on fire, like, and then kind of peel
What's this
your eyes
asshole
open.
doing? Just sitting there on fire.
Kind of peel your eyes open. And I just remember, like, it was the fastest stunt I ever did, because I did rehearsals of like running down the hall and getting shot and then like running and then falling, and it all went out the window. I was sitting there and I could see, all of a sudden you can start seeing the fire grow on you, and you can start hearing it, and I'm just like, oh my God. And the guy's like, go! And I was just like, ah! Ran down the thing, did my fall onto my knees. It was like probably 14 feet up, and I fell to my knees, and then I did a tuck, and then a flat back on top of a van that had, I had a back pad on, hit the van, and then go down the windshield, down the hood, all the way down to the ground. And it somehow, some way came out perfect, and now the sun's coming up, they put me out, and everyone clapped, and then they're like, hey, it's a wrap. And I was just like, what just happened? Like, I don't
ever want to do that again.
Yeah, that's my one and only fire burn. But there's just amazing guys that specialize in that stuff. And to them, that's not gnarly. But then they watch us do a dirt bike easy double, and they're like, man, I wish I could ride like that. And I'm like, well, it won't catch me lighting myself on fire either.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching the Whiskey Throttle Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell to get alerts for all the latest content. Follow us on Twitter at W_Throttle_show and on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Whiskey Throttle Show.